Have you ever had a moment where the entire world just stops? Not in a beautiful, cinematic way, but in a gut-wrenching, silent scream kind of way? For me, it happened in a crowded downtown Chicago diner over a lukewarm Reuben sandwich. My coworker Dave was showing me photos from his weekend sailing on Lake Michigan. He was swiping through pictures of his kids, the boat, a sunset, and then he paused on one. "Check out this shot. The skyline was perfect," he said, pushing his phone across the table. But I wasn't looking at the skyline. In the background, partially obscured by a sail, was my wife Sarah. She was laughing, her head thrown back, her hand resting on the arm of another man, Mark, her boss, a man I'd met at company Christmas parties, a man with a smug, self-satisfied grin that now made my blood run cold. The world didn't just stop, it fractured. The clatter of plates, the buzz of conversation, the city traffic outside it all faded into a dull roar. I saw the way her fingers curled around his arm, the intimate angle of their bodies. It wasn't a friendly gesture. It was possession. I stood up so fast, my chair scraped violently against the floor. Dave looked up, startled. "You okay, man?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded, threw a 20 on the table, and walked out of that restaurant. It's not just leaving lunch, but leaving the life I thought I knew. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. The walk back to the office was a blur. Every memory of the past year was now tainted, replaying in my mind under a harsh, interrogative light. The late nights, she said, were spent at the office. The girl's weekend in Miami that she came back from with a tan but very few pictures. The way she'd angle her phone away from me. It wasn't just strange behavior. It was a script. It's a poorly written one. And I was the fool who hadn't read the stage directions. That night I watched her as she slept. It's the woman I had promised my life to. The one I had built a home with on a quiet street in Lincoln Park. Her face, so peaceful in the moonlight, looked like a stranger's mask. She was cold now, manipulative. Anytime I'd tried to get close recently, she'd push me away with a sharp word or a sigh of exhaustion. "You're being needy," she'd say. "I'm just so stressed with work," they felt untouchable. Her and Mark. They were living one life in the open, the top of their game in a high-rise on Wacker Drive, and another in the shadows, built on my trust. The breakdown didn't happen all at once. It was a slow, quiet crumbling. It happened in my car during my commute, when I'd have to pull over because I couldn't see the road through the tears. It happened in the shower, where the sound of the water could drown out the sobs. I was a ghost in my own home. But then, something shifted. The grief, the humiliation. It began to curdle into something else, something cold, hard, and sharp. It became resolve. I wasn't going to be the victim in her story. I was going to be the author of her ending. The first step was proof. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop, who operated out of a dusty office in the Loop. He was expensive, but worth every penny. Within a week, I had a file thick with everything. Photos of them checking into the Thompson Hotel on a Tuesday afternoon, credit card statements for dinners I wasn't at, for jewelry I never saw. The Pi even managed to get a recording of a phone call, their voices weaving a tapestry of my betrayal, laughing about how oblivious I was. "He's too trusting," I heard her say, her voice dripping with a casual cruelty that broke the last remaining piece of my heart. He'd never suspect a thing. While the Pi gathered evidence, I set the legal traps. I met with the best divorce attorney in Chicago, a woman known as the Shark. We moved our joint assets into accounts that would be frozen the moment I filed. I took my name off the lease of the apartment she thought was our shared future. I meticulously documented every lie, every expense, every secret. The social trap was the final piece. Mark was on the verge of a huge promotion to senior vice president. He was the golden boy of the company. Sarah was his star project manager, his protege. Their success was intertwined. I found out the promotion was being announced at the company's annual gala at the Art Institute of Chicago. The stage was set. The night of the gala was surreal. I wore my best suit. Sarah was radiant in a backless red dress, the kind of dress that demands to be seen. She was on edge, shooting me irritated looks. "Why are you even here?" "You hate these things," she whispered as we walked in. "I'm here to support you, darling," I said, my smile feeling like a crack in a porcelain mask. I was polite. I shook hands. I even shared a brief, chillingly civil nod with Mark, who looked at me with a flicker of what I could only describe as pity. In fact, he thought he had one. The CEO took the stage. The room was filled with applause. He spoke of the company's future, of leadership, and then he began the introduction for the new SVP. This is a man of integrity, of vision. Mark Reynolds. As Mark walked toward the stage, basking in the applause, my plan went into motion. A single email was sent from a burner account to every senior executive, every board member, and every major news outlet in the city. The subject line, the integrity of Mark Reynolds. The email contained a link to a password-protected website. The password? Oblivious. Inside was everything. The photos, the hotel receipts, transcripts of their calls, a detailed timeline of their affair cross-referenced with company travel and expense reports. I watched from the back of the room as one by one phones began to light up. The applause for Mark faltered, replaced by confused whispers. The CEO, still on stage, was handed a tablet by a frantic-looking assistant. His face went from celebratory to stone-cold fury in a matter of seconds. He leaned into the microphone, his voice tight. There seems to be a development. We will be postponing this announcement. Mark stood frozen on the stage, his smug smile melting into pure panic. He looked out into the crowd, his eyes finding mine. And in that moment, he knew. He saw the ghost he had helped create. Sarah was across the room. Her face was white. People were turning to stare at her, their expressions a mixture of shock and disgust. Her carefully constructed world was vaporizing in real time. She tried to walk, to run, but she was trapped in a sea of judgment. Her career was over. Her reputation was destroyed. Legally, she was about to find out she had nothing. I didn't stay to watch the rest. I turned and walked out of the grand hall, the whispers and gasps fading behind me. I walked through the quiet, echoing galleries of the museum, past priceless works of art, and didn't feel a thing. The divorce was swift and brutal. She was left with nothing but the consequences of her choices. I sold the home we shared and moved to a small, quiet apartment overlooking the lake. Sometimes, late at night, I look out at the endless dark water and think about that day in the diner. It's a quiet, haunting feeling. It's not victory. It's the cold, heavy silence after a storm. The world didn't just stop that day. It ended, and a new, colder one began.